I'm JJ.
I'm Tyler.
We're in the dungeon. This is the last video we're recording. Yeah,
okay.
For the wine club in 2022 for spring. So hopefully our enthusiasm hasn't flagged. We're still high energy. All right, we're talking about Cabernet. We saved Cabernet for last because why not?
Well, Cabernet's king on Red Mountain.
Cabernet's king on Red Mountain. So Cabernet is what made Red Mountain famous. It's what made our vineyard work in the early days of paying bills and establishing prestige. And today, of the 272 estate acres that we farm on Red Mountain, about 60% of it is Cabernet. So Cabernet is what pays the bills. It's what people want to drink. It's what wineries that buy our fruit, it's what they want to use. And it really is the economic engine that keeps us all going here. And so we've been producing Red Mountain Cabernet in one iteration or another since our very earliest days. And this is really our flagship product in terms of availability, pricing, how much we make, all of these things. And so what's interesting to note this wine is the 2017 iteration has some heart of the hill fruit in it.
Yeah.
And if you were to look back on this wine 20 years ago, it would have been basically only Kiona Estate Vineyard Cabernet.
Right. We didn't have the other 3 or 4 estate vineyards that we currently operate and farm.
So Kiona Estate Vineyard was it for a long time. And as the years have progressed, we've added Heart of the Hill. We've expanded Ranch at the End of the Road. Mm-hmm. We purchased Arts Vineyard. We've brought Sunset Bench under our control. So all of these things now in 2022, we have 5 estate vineyards. But that's a fairly recent development in our 40 plus year history.
Right.
So as we're bringing these vineyards online, becoming more familiar with the blocks, we are rolling that material into more of our products and incorporating it with a broader brush in terms of what we would consider in a blend or a cuvee.
Sure.
So 20 years ago it was only Kiona Estate, and now we have all of these things to pick from. And so as those components matriculate through our system, we've got more components and more levers we can pull in terms of making the wine taste a certain way.
Sure. So as JJ mentioned, right, Cabernet is our most important cultivar because, well, we grow the most of it compared to the other 20-some cultivars that we also produce. That's true for us and also for Red Mountain as a whole. What's really unique about how this wine has evolved throughout the years is, our name is Kiona Vineyards and Winery. It's really important for us to sell high quality fruit to, many wineries across the Pacific Northwest, but also produce a product that exemplifies, what we're doing here in our winery and how it captures Red Mountain as a whole. For people who taste Red Mountain wines frequently from different sites, you start to understand these finite differences that I generally categorize between vineyards high up on the hill and those lower down on the hill. Our original Kiona Estate Vineyard, the 80 acres right in front of our tasting room, is more or less what I would classify the lowlands of Red Mountain, right? And you could almost separate the low and high parts of Red Mountain into 2 separate AVAs. They really are that different. So what's exciting about this wine that we're producing throughout the years is that as our vineyards mature and we incorporate those other 4 vineyards JJ was mentioning into our production portfolio, you are thereby also experiencing a greater breadth of Red Mountain and how we are extracting and blending those wines to make really the best wine that we can in a single bottle of Red Mountain Cabernet that you're getting.
You want it to be representative of the AVA as a whole.
Yeah.
It's not a vineyard designated Cabernet.
Right.
So we're not necessarily...
And the blend can change every
Exactly.
year, right? We're making the wine within the vintage designation and the constraints that we are working with. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, we have extraordinary liberties that really give us a unique position to make this wine that's structured in various ways and actually comes from different locations that maybe other producers don't necessarily have that luxury of doing, right?
Like if you're sourcing Red Mountain fruit, you might be sourcing from one vineyard, or if you're lucky, maybe 2.
Right. Yeah. And so it's awesome to taste this wine through time compared to other iterations, which are just as good. But certainly you can see in the structure and the blending philosophies that we have utilized the wine is changing in accordance to how we operate and farm and pick our vineyards and make wine. So it's a tasty wine. It's got excellent structure and depth, high varietal typicity for Cabernet, and it's very exciting to be able to have this different material and present it to you in a delightful, delicious, yummy red wine.
Right. One quick word on blending. So, when a lot of wine consumers think about blending, they think only about varietal blending.
Sure.
So like, here's Merlot, here's Cabernet, blend them together. Okay, here's your blend.
Right.
When we're blending, we're considering myriad details, and more than one aspect of a wine can be blended. And so something that was an emphasis with this wine has more Cabernet Sauvignon in it than maybe any prior version of this wine.
Sure.
It's like 96%
Sure.
Cabernet. But that doesn't mean we're not blending it with the same amount of attention to detail.
Yeah, and judicious selection.
Yeah, we're going block by block. So we might be blending Cabernet blocks together, and that's our variable that we're tweaking, instead of saying, okay, well, here's a 17% Merlot edition. That's the blend. Like,
Right.
we're paying more attention to block and geographical location and vineyard site and all of those things, rather than necessarily saying, okay, well, let's only blend in different cultivars and see what that does.
Right, and with that being said, our other labels where we really include a lot of different cultivars, they all provide that variance and layering and texture and aroma, because not all wines are high aroma and high texture, right? Some are higher aroma, some are lower aroma, some are higher texture, and some are lower. But what JJ is really getting at is when you have this wider variety of material to play with, and you blend them together at the end, you really still can fulfill all those goals utilizing those individual attributes of the wine that makes the whole better than any of the individual parts.
There you go.
So
Getting philosophical.
awesome.
All right. I think my daughter would say that I am a high aroma dad.
High aroma dad. Well, that's a dad joke if I ever heard one.
All right. And
So
with that,
hope you enjoy the
we'll see you
wine.